The breakdown should be changed, and there are ways to do it. They're actually fairly easy if you would just surrender.
Welcome to Coffee with a Couple Cure, where we share practical tips for your relationship before you finish your first cup. Here's Jay and Lori Pyatt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with a Couple Cure. I am Lori.
I'm Jay.
And this is episode 13 in our series on the 12 steps. And today we're going to cover the Serenity Prayer because I was surprised to know that it's more than the first few lines of it. And the rest of it is really kind of a way to live in a surrendered way while also looking for joy. So we're just going to dive right into it.
Yeah. So most of us know the Serenity Prayer from, you go anywhere and you can see, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
And I want to give a big shout out to a girl whose name starts with Z, because she made that for us. She's a friend of a woman whose name starts with T, and so I want to thank both of them for passing that on to me because I just love it, and it actually matches the room colors perfectly. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I love it. We're going to use that on our podcast sometime. So anyway, I guess go for it.
Yeah. So this is a paraphrase of the original work, which is by Reinhold Niebuhr, which says, God, give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Then in the Celebrate Recovery circles, this next half is used all the time, but it's rarely talked about, I think, outside of the Celebrate Recovery. So the second half says, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Serenity is one of those things that addicts strive for. They want peace and calm, but typically what they want is for other people to shut up and leave them alone and let them use and do whatever they're going to do and not have an input on how crazy their life has become. And so when we talk about the Serenity Prayer, acceptance, God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That's step 1 and step 2 and step 3 in a kind of a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we want to be able to do that in a serene or peaceful way, as opposed to the white knuckle, oh, just help me to get through this right now because I want to change everything, but I can't. So I think that's pretty important.
I do like the words in the original prayer, God, give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed. Like we said in the last episode, we are told to call each other higher in the church in order to see if those things can be changed. So I think over time, though, the spouse, again, we're talking about addiction and betrayal. So the betrayed spouse will find out, can the heart of the husband actually be changed through whatever means God gives her to try to call him further into his nobility, further in his Christianity. So after a while, she starts realizing, wow, this isn't getting any better. It's actually making things worse. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. So go ahead.
Well, I think I picked up on where you were going, which is addicts have to have evidence of life change, right? So many things about saying I'm not using anymore. Lori doesn't have a camera inside my brain that sees what I'm thinking about or sees what I'm doing when I'm away from her. And even if she were to track me 24 hours a day, she still would not fully know what's really going on inside of me. So short of significant change of character, she has very little indication of what's going on for me. Mm-hmm. So if I can accept with serenity now things that used to cause me a lot of trouble, the way the NA or AA book puts it is, we now find solutions to things that used to baffle us.
Okay.
So
interesting.
So if I behave differently, more consistently in situations that used to be very triggering for her, Lori and I have talked about this a number of times. Sometimes when I'm working on a project, all I have to do is breathe a certain way and she'll leave the room because she,
I've seen where that breath leads to.
Yeah, she's seen where that leads to. And I didn't evidence enough character change for her to say, no, I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. And now I know we can have like a 1 minute tense conversation and we can go back to where we're both fine with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think where Lori was going earlier was just that evidence of change, of being able to be at peace with things that are, and Lori will know this, right? When I say it, other drivers. I can't control other drivers. And if I can't accept it with serenity, it's an indicator to Lori that Jay's maybe a little off today, or he's off lately, or something like that. And so I think that first line is pretty important.
Mm-hmm. And since we're in this first section, the original second line goes, courage to change the things which should be changed. All over in the Bible is indications of, okay, if you say you're a Christian, then certain things need to change. Mm-hmm. So on the flip side of it, typically this line will be used kind of against the betrayed partner in order to get her to kind of toe the line and back off and that sort of thing. But the flip side of it is I've seen so many guys who will say, well, I'll never be able to make it right. The problem is the distrust should be changed. The breakdown should be changed. And there are ways to do it. They're actually fairly easy if you would just surrender, like the first few steps talk about. Mm-hmm. So I pray that you will have the courage to change the things that should be changed, especially when it comes to relational breakdown.
Right. And honestly, courage is one of those things that addicts lack. I mean, we talk about alcohol being liquid courage, right? So for someone like me who did not directly handle his challenges and having the courage to say what's really going on for me, being proactively open and honest, which is a huge step in repairing relationship, takes a ton of courage because it leads to other conversations. It could potentially lead to a hard conversation. And Lori and I have covered that many, many times, that I shied away from hard conversations because two things. I didn't have the courage to just step into them. And the other was I didn't think I had the tools to get through them either.
And some guys don't, which is why we teach on the tools to have those hard conversations.
Yeah. So there is a place for having those tools. But having the courage, how many times does it say in the Word, be strong and courageous, be strong and courageous? A lot of that courage is not about me. Mm-hmm. That courage is knowing, going back to step 3, who is my higher power? Where am I putting my trust? And if I don't fully put all of my weight on my higher power, I don't have courage enough for me.
Right.
I've got to have courage from another source. And so that's, again, why it's critical to have a higher power, whether it's the Christian God or some other form of strength that's greater than yourself.
To me, it really is like, even if I step into this hard conversation and it goes badly, I'm going to be okay because God's going to make me be okay. You know, I'm going to be okay because my desire is a close relationship with Him versus getting what I hope happens out of this conversation or out of this action, this leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And the last line, the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. This can take time. It does take time for us to know, okay, is this something I can change? Is this something the other person wants to change for real? Are his words for real? You know, I know I had to kind of really decipher Jay's initial words. You know, I want to make this right. I want to have a close relationship with you. I want to stop using porn. Okay, that's great, but what did he want more? And it took, I mean, gosh, for us, 15 years to decipher that. Hopefully it won't take that long for you. Hopefully you found some help that can lead you through at a quicker pace, but it does take time. And then once you know that, okay, what's the next step in your own healing, no matter what the other person does?
Right. And one thing to recognize is our expectations. So the wisdom to know the difference between the things I can change and the things I cannot change. I had expectations that other people would behave a certain way, that they would do certain things. And when they didn't, I felt like they should change. But that's not something I can change. That's not something necessarily that they can change.
But you can show up in a way to kind of create an environment that they want to step into a deeper relationship with you.
Right. I agree there. I cannot change how they respond to an issue. I can change my response to that issue, but I can't change their response to that issue. I can impact the relationship between me and that other person. Now, I might be able to draw them closer to me so that they understand my point of view better, but I can't necessarily change their approach to an issue and see it the way I would see it. You know, so I need to have the wisdom to look at my expectations. What am I expecting? Because that's where a lot of our resentments and anger come from, is I have an expectation that someone will do X. And when they don't, that's where, you know, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change comes in.
Right.
You know, my expectations are not being met. But as an addict, I want what I want when I want it because I'm entitled and I do those kind of things. So I really need to look at my expectations, and that's a good place to begin to distinguish what I can and cannot change.
Something that's coming to mind is, you know, the way God is, the way He stepped into our mess and change things is the exact same thing we can change things the most quickly, and that is to die to ourselves. Now, if you've been betrayed, you might be dying to the point of like it physically killing you, and you know, we don't want to go too far into allowing abuse, that's for sure. Basically, the litmus test is die to yourself if it will change the person you're dying for. And if you're bleeding out, then obviously it's not benefiting the person, it's not causing them to step into a further relationship. So at that point you need to take care of yourself. But for the guy or for the addict, if you do die to yourself, it can be the quickest way to impact your relationships.
Yeah.
We're already kind of long on this one. Do you want to make this a two-parter or?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay. So that's a wrap-up of the first piece. We've gotten a little bit into the second part of it, the lesser-known part.
Right.
So come back next time and we'll cover the second part of the Serenity Prayer, the original one.
Right. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye now.